Did you know that depreciation is the most expensive cost of owning a brand new car? And the average new vehicle loses 1/3 of its value in the first year alone. At EchoPark.com, beat the cost of depreciation with the new car alternative. We focus on just one thing, acquiring 1 to 4-year-old low-mileage, clean Carfax vehicles just after they've taken their biggest depreciation hit and passing the savings along to you. EchoPark Automotive. Get the new car feel without the new car price.
On the wind, ancient voices and spirits sail. Every mark on this earth tells a tale. Every day that goes by without ever asking why, you believe in your dreams. Close your eyes and believe in magic as I hold your hand. Close your eyes, believe in magic. 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 Believe in magic.
Welcome to Walking with Spirit with Dr. Ruth Anderson on the International Angels Network. Today is Thursday, May 31, 2018. I am your host, Ruth Anderson, and I'm coming to you live from Colorado. I am an author and a spiritual counselor providing individualized, transformational experiences for my clients using Holy Fire Reiki, energy work, and connection with the spiritual divinity, including the Divine Mother, Archangels Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Here at International Angels Network, we explore spirituality, angels, spirit guides, our loved ones on the other side, and much more. Our radio podcasts are available to you on Google Play, iTunes, Podbean, and now Stitcher. These are all easy sites to use and make it simple to listen to our archive shows. Tonight we are completing our 4-week miniseries on death, dying, and beyond. Tonight's show, titled As Above, So Below, will be about the similarities between life in the afterlife and life here in the earthly realm. This episode of International Angels Network is sponsored by Holistic Light Rejuvenation Center. For more information, visit holisticrejuvenate.com. Sunday Sturgeon is the founder and CEO of Holistic Light Rejuvenation Center, and she's the sponsor of our Sunday and Thursday radio shows. Pleased to announce that International Angels Network is now also sponsored by Audible by Amazon. If you go to www.audibletrial.com/International Angels Network, you can get a free audiobook. So please check that out today. I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen in. This show is called Walking with Spirit. Walking with Spirit means consciously living in the physical realm with frequent connection to the divinity in the spirit realm and being open to all that they want me to experience. Every day I check in with my guides, Divine Mother, and God, sometimes seeking guidance, sometimes seeking connection, and sometimes seeking their healing abilities. Many days I receive lessons by hearing, seeing, or feeling signs coming in from the energetic realm. I never know what my day is going to look like or what the next learning might be. Each week, I share a story about an experience I had while walking with Spirit. Here is my story from this week. We had our 16-year-old cockapoo, Tucker, put down the other day. It was a difficult decision and one that we had been putting off for several months. That morning, Divine Mother showed me that she would be accompanying Tucker as he passed. I asked her if she would just be sending an angel in her stead. She assured me, no, it would be her personally carrying him as he passed. A veterinarian named Autumn came to the house. She sat with us while we said our final goodbyes. We held Tucker in our arms while she administered the euthanasia. After Autumn checked his heart and told us that he was gone, I had a vision of Divine Mother cradling him in her arms. Soon his body was bereft of soul or spirit. Time to move Tucker to Autumn's truck. My husband wrapped Tucker's body in a towel and gingerly carried him outside. He placed Tucker in the back seat. I leaned in to make sure Tucker was secure and pet him one last time, even though I knew it was just his body, a shell. I was distracted by movement in the front seat. Autumn's husky mix was lying in the driver's seat. Autumn introduced her as Maisie. Maisie was slightly built and had a thin snout. She had piercingly light blue eyes. I could immediately tell that Maisie was no ordinary dog. I could feel that she had a strong soul presence, a purpose, and a job assisting with the passing of dogs from one realm to the next. I said, "Maisie, you have an interesting life." Autumn said, "Oh yes, she has been driving with me in this 10 years. She has seen a lot." I said, "It feels like she's an undertaker for dogs." Maisie looked right through me as I said those words, and I knew she was correct. I knew I was correct. I was so taken with the strong soul presence of Maisie that I struggled to continue to look her in the eye. I knew my Tucker was gone, but it felt better to know that Maisie was escorting his body. About an hour after Autumn and Maisie left, I was sitting contemplating Divine Mother accompanying Tucker's spirit. I was shown a vision of my guides and Archangel Michael and Raphael playing with a yipping, yapping, playful, small black dog. The dog was jumping up against Archangel Michael's legs and receiving pets in turn. In my heart, I knew that that was Tucker in a younger, healthier, cancer-free spirit form. I asked if Tucker was going to be with the other dogs that were in spirit form. I heard, "Maybe he could stay here with us so you could see him." Yes, I would like that very much. So on to our topic for this evening. The past few weeks, we've spoken about what happens after a person dies. We talked about the experiences I had during meditation of seeing the typical near-death experiences of the Black Tunnel, the Life Review, being in God's divine white light, meeting with the tribunal, and the various residential levels of the afterlife called the Cathedral of Souls. The following are excerpts from my new book, Walking with Spirit, Divine Illuminations on Life, Death, and Beyond. This explains how I learned about the similarities between life in the afterlife and life here in the earthly realm. I had a very vivid dream about a past work acquaintance, Ken, who passed away several months prior. Ken was fun to work with as long as one could look past his irreverent jokes, womanizing, and ineffectiveness in his job. Ken was funny, charismatic, enjoyed laughing, and had a huge heart. While I liked Ken, I was mindful not to find myself alone with him. Let's just say that Ken was not good with boundaries. In my dream, Ken had moved out of his home. It was for sale, and folks were allowed to come in and see it. I did not see Ken or his family there, yet I knew that this home was connected to him and that he was currently or had been residing there. When I entered, I expected to see a typical, modest, single-family home. But this home was significantly different. I quickly saw that his home was a palatial community under one roof. Rooms led to rooms, which led to corridors. There was no end to this place, and the number of people who could live here was limitless. As I went down a long corridor, I went through a bedroom that had a back door. I went out the back door, which led to a long walkway. I started seeing crowds of people walking my direction, several of them eating ice cream cones. I walked further in the same direction until I got to stairs that led to a top landing. On the landing, I saw an ice cream parlor. There were happy teens serving ice cream and smiling patrons receiving it, seemingly for no pay. I saw an open staircase to the right with happy-looking families with beach towels coming down the stairs after apparently being at the lakeside beach. They were heading to the ice cream parlor. I thought it odd that a house would have a beach and an ice cream parlor, but seeing it as a community, it had some nice features. This felt like a pretty nice place to be. I headed back downstairs to see more of the living spaces. Wait a minute, something was off here. Some of the rooms were black, very angular, with dark energy that felt old and dead, vacuous, empty, unwelcoming, dusty, and heavy with what felt like energy from the past. These rooms were very unsettling energetically to me, and I walked in and walked out quickly. Some hallways were dark, and I would not enter them. Others were light and bright, with a lot of families and people milling around. This did not feel like a typical dream, as it invoked an energetic response. Parts of the community were okay, maybe even desirable, and a lot of people were making the most of it. The lower level energetic areas were dark, abandoned, and there were no people in them. During the dream, I had the feeling of longing, like I was wanting to find more. I wanted to see all that this place had to offer, yet it felt unsettling to me, like I would not be able to make a home for myself here. It felt like the ice cream parlor and the beach were facades, trying to make this place look better, more attractive and appealing than it really was. There was not enough of the bright, sunny, fun places to counteract the number of darker, scarier places. The bedrooms and living quarters all had the lower level energy feel to them, which is where people would be spending a great deal of time. Why would a home or community have both light, bright, family-oriented spaces and also dark corridors that felt dark and foreboding? I was reminded of the levels of the afterlife. Previously, I had been shown the idea of the bell curve as it related to levels of residential energy in the Cathedral of Souls. I used that to hypothesize that following the bell curve, there were fewest people residing in levels 1, which was heaven, and 7, which was hell, and the largest group of people would reside in the middle group, 4. At that moment in time, I had not yet been witness to level 4 of the residence levels in the afterlife. Was I now being shown level 4 through this dream? The dream sat heavily in my thoughts. When I reviewed the details of it, I felt an underlying tension and a nagging urging for me to pay attention and not forget the specifics. Using muscle testing, I asked my guides for clarification of this dream. I asked, "Is there a message to this dream?" I heard yes. "Come to me so I could learn this?" Yes. "Does this have to do with the levels of energy in the afterlife?" No. Does this home have to do with levels of energy on Earth? Yes. Is this place representative of level 4 energy on Earth? I had never thought of there being corresponding levels of energy on Earth, but here I was being given the questions to lead me to the answers. Yes. Was Ken living in level 4 energy here on Earth? Yes. Is Ken living in level 4 of the Cathedral of Souls? Yes. Are there more people living in level 4 energy on Earth than any of the other energy levels? Yes. Are the least number of people living in number 1 and 7 levels of energy on Earth than any of the others? Yes. Are the least number of people living in the number 1 and 7 levels of energy in the afterlife as well? Yes. Do the levels of energy in the afterlife parallel the levels of energy in the physical realm? Yes. I have not seen level 4 energy before, so thank you, Ken, for coming through my dreams to show me this. The words as above, so below have taken on a whole new meaning. I have seen the vibrational frequencies of the 7 levels of the cathedral of souls in the afterlife. I have seen how those same levels of vibrational frequency relate to people and their energy levels here in the physical realm. In simplistic terms, each of the 7 levels of vibrational frequencies, from 1 being high to 7 being very low, correlate to a level of similar name in the physical realm. People who are living lives solely of devotion to spirit, living in alignment with their higher selves, and making the world better for others, are living in high-level vibrational frequencies at levels 1 or 2 on Earth. Level 1 being the highest level of spiritual connectedness, with the caveat of knowing and loving Christ, just as the same in the Cathedral of Souls. I think of the selfless lives of Mahatma Gandhi and the Dalai Lama as examples. A person living in moderate vibrational energies of level 3 will most likely reside in level 3 of the Cathedral of Souls. I say most likely, as I am neither judge nor jury making those decisions. Similarly, a serial killer who worships evil, existing in a low level 7 vibrational frequency on Earth, would probably end up residing in level 7 of the Cathedral of Souls, the densest, lowest level resembling hell. Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy come to mind, and of course Hitler. How can having knowledge of the 7 levels of vibrational frequency on Earth benefit us? I worked with Reagan, a young client who was intrigued by the mystique, the mystery, and the seduction of lower level energy. While her experiences with the lower level energy were not new to her, speaking about them was. She had no language or vocabulary with which to describe her intent or her desired interest. As I worked with her, I felt it would be beneficial to describe to her the significance of the 7 levels of the afterlife, ranging from heaven at level 1 down to hell at level 7, and each level in between. She very quickly adapted to the vocabulary and concepts I was describing. Reagan saw herself somewhere behaving between levels 5 and 6, which meant very low vibrations and intention. I counseled her about the risks, both on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level, choosing to seek out such low-level energy on a daily basis. Reagan asked what level I saw myself, and I said level 2. I would hope to someday ascribe to the levels of high holiness found in level 1, but for now, I'm pleased to feel myself at a solid level 2. This conversation was the first time I had borrowed the levels of the afterlife and ascribed them to levels of energy, intention, and behavior in the earthly realm. So what number are you? This next story is about Victoria and Linny. Victoria called me for a private session as she was having difficulties with her roommate, Linny. The 2 young women used to be good friends and spent a good deal of time gossiping, drinking, being critical of others, watching TV, and eating unhealthy processed foods. Then Victoria had a personal growth spurt. She began meditating, gravitated toward lighter, higher vibrational frequencies and people who could reinforce her new lifestyle. She was no longer comfortable with the old ways of gossip and criticizing others. Rather than watch TV and eat junk food, Victoria enjoyed attending classes, getting exercise, and eating healthfully. Linny felt left out and rejected. Linny took it a step further and began criticizing Victoria to their friends and creating a very uncomfortable home life. Victoria no longer felt safe emotionally to stay in their apartment. I read both of the women's energy. Victoria was functioning at level 3, while Linny remained at level 5. I explained to Victoria that a number closer to 1 or 2 did not equate to better, and that she was not suddenly superior to Lenny. It did look, however, that things between the two were no longer compatible for rooming together. For Victoria to sustain staying at level 3 energetically, it did not make sense for her to hang out with people who were vibrating at lower energies than she was. I recommended that while choosing a new roommate, that she choose her company carefully and look for someone who was already at level 3 or above. The lesson of the moth. We have several animals in our home, including hamsters and a diamond dove. They all get fed daily, which literally takes seconds and is not any big deal. The issue is that sometimes the bags of feed that we buy contain larvae of Indian meal moths. If you have ever had Indian meal moths in your home, you know what I'm talking about. These little moths are insidious, replicate freely, and leave eggs in places like packages of whole grains and rice, cereals, and baking flours. Heck, they'll even chew their way through plastic and cardboard to get to the grains. Last summer, we experienced an infestation of Indian meal moths, and I got to know their habits all too well. The larvae look like little worms, about ½ an inch long, and they are a creamy white color. They look kind of like a long grain of rice. They will show up just about anywhere, but they seem to like soft, cushy places like the towel around the bird's cage. I've gotten so I don't mind picking up the larva with my bare hands and dropping it into a nearby dish of water to stop its life cycle. It's interesting to me that when I'm holding the larva, I feel cold energy. It's not that interesting, however, that it stops me from dropping it in water. When I had finally seen enough reproducing moths, I went into meditation, and I asked for the overseer of the moths to present itself to me. The overseer is like the king or god of the moths, and every animal and bug species has an overseer. An immense energetic representation of a moth showed up in front of me. It was at least 10 feet tall. I felt its energetic frequencies, which were quite strong and teeming with energy. I was treated to visions of moths dating back to much earlier times. I saw moths around campfires and lamps of influential people throughout the ages. Yes, I appreciate that moths have been here for years and years, I am sure predating any human. I appreciate that whenever anything that was deemed important to mankind was taking place, there were probably moths nearby. I loved that this overseer was showing me the importance of moths. I got the impression that it was proud to be a moth, and that being a moth was a great thing for a moth. I saw the vision of multiple moths fluttering around a porch light. I understood that connection with other moths was critical. Moths are a social creature, so I guess it makes sense that procreation is that important to them. I thought of the old saying, like a moth to the flame. I was curious, so I asked, why do moths always go towards flames and light? Are they seeking a heat source? Are they seeking the light? I was reminded of the times that I held a moth or larva in my hand and I could feel its energy. I asked the Oversoul if it could help me to feel moth energy. My request was answered, and I was connected to an extremely high vibration. I saw a flame and saw that the flame also had a high vibrational energy. The moths weren't seeking the light or the heat. They were seeking the same vibrational frequency. Wow, I had no idea. I thanked the moth overseer for teaching me. Of course, being an armchair philosopher, I asked myself, what is the lesson here about moths, and how does that pertain to us humans? As humans, I see that we do the same thing. We gravitate to others who hold the same vibrational frequency that we do, whether it be low-level energy or high vibrational energies. Really, if you stop to think about it, don't you hang out with people that have the same moral or spiritual understandings that you do? Don't you gravitate towards them? So I'm looking at the human characteristics as they pertain to the levels of vibrational energy. Simply speaking, the higher and lighter your vibration is, the more in touch you are with your divinity, your higher self, and consciousness. Higher vibrations are generally associated with positive qualities and feelings, such as love, forgiveness, compassion, and peacefulness. Conversely, the more out of sync you are with your higher nature or spirituality, the lower your vibration will be. Low vibrations are associated with darker qualities, such as hatred, anxiety, greed, depression. For our purposes here, I will list only those attributes of human behavior that I personally have seen linked to the matching levels of the Cathedral of Souls. Keep in mind that each level has a range of behaviors and that people can change the level in which they are functioning. So level 1 is the highest and lightest vibrational frequencies. These folks know and love Christ. They're extremely evolved as a soul and in connection with one's highest self. Their life's work is to assist mankind, whether paid or not. They're selfless. Their conscience guides their behavior at all times. Probably have a career or life of service to help others. Have a very grateful attitude, a we are one mentality, and a high sense of morality. So that's our level 1, folks. And we know that on Earth and in the Cathedral of Souls, about 2.5% of the people or souls reside in a level 1 type behavior. Level 2 is slightly lower, but still high and light vibrational frequencies. They don't know or love Christ, but are highly evolved. Their work may be to assist humanity. Lack of self. They have a strong sense of conscience, the career or life of service to help others, very grateful and frequently kind to others. So level 2, very high level of morality and caring for others. Level 3 is more moderate, and there's more folks in that realm. Moderately high and light vibrational frequencies, often kind to others, have a conscience, may have a career of helping others. And level 3 folks are lovely. You'd want one to be your neighbor. Level 4, an average rate of vibrational frequencies. More selfish, more self-centered. They can be kind to others. They have a conscience. They may think racist or bigoted thoughts. Level 5, we're definitely moving down to moderately low and denser vibrational frequencies. More selfish, more self-centered, intrigued by the dark or evil and may sometimes dabble with that. Happy to trick or hurt someone emotionally or financially. They may lash out physically. Addictive personalities, void of conscience, racist or bigoted, and may speak or bully as a result. Level 6, moving downward, low and dense vibrational frequencies. Selfish, self-centered, loves evil, worships the dark, purposely hurts others and finds joy in it. Murderers, rapists, their work is to hurt fellow man. Maybe drug dealers, hitmen, gang members, mafia members, racist or bigoted, and may act on it, such as assault as a result. So level 7, which is the lowest and densest vibrational frequencies, we're again going to see only about 1.5% of folks functioning at a level 7 of low vibrational frequencies. Very selfish, self-centered, no conscience whatsoever. Their work, whether it's paid or not, is to destroy mankind. Serial killers, rapists, drug lords that are trying to get kids hooked on drugs for their own personal gain, personifies the dark, loves and personifies evil, lack of conscience at all times guiding their behaviors, no sense of morality whatsoever, racist or bigoted, and may kill as a result. So that's the description of the levels and how it looks here in our physical realm. And as I was reading this, I'm hoping that you all were thinking of some folks that you know that might fit to some of those different levels. So if somebody is living and functioning at level 3, does that mean that they might not dip into a level 5 behavior every now and then? Maybe. They might. But does it mean that they're solidly living in a level 5 energetic frequency? Not necessarily. The choice between living in high vibrational frequencies and lower level vibrational frequencies is not always a clear-cut decision. Sometimes it feels like there's a tug-of-war with your soul being caught somewhere in the middle. I wrote this story about a client that came in. It's called Recycle or Refuse. Good versus bad. Lower level frequencies versus godly white light. I had a client coming in who had a history of gravitating toward the darkness. Or maybe, to be more exact, low-level frequencies had a history of gravitating to him, particularly when he was trying to stand in the light. Yep, there comes trouble. Was it because he was on the path to becoming a minister in an organized religion that the darkness thought, we don't want to lose this one, go and get him, fellas? Or because being uncomfortable with the man-made constraints of that organized religion, he checked into white witchcraft for a while. Somehow there was comfort for him in the darkness, but that comfort was shrouded for evil. No, neither the godly religion with its constructs and doctrine or the total darkness felt correct for him. Light versus dark, good versus evil. A man in limbo, called to the light, but seduced by the darkness. Through his childhood and into adulthood, if he flew too close to the light of the divine, he was punished, assaulted by demons both emotionally and at times physically. Intense fear of retaliation from the dark left him frozen, unable and unwilling to answer the call from the heavens, the pull from both sides, constantly. Where to run? Nowhere to hide. A person can only busy themselves so as to not feel the constant pull for so long. Eventually one has to stop running, or you will want to take your own life to stop the constant barrage against your soul. As I was preparing for Martin to come over for a session, I filled my home with God's healing light and the white light of the angels. I thought of the importance of having people who walk with you on your journey of gravitating to God's light and not trying to stand completely on your own. It really is important to surround oneself with others who understand the struggles and can support and bolster your beliefs. I thought of my cousin who is a missionary in Africa, coming from a long line of missionaries and having been raised in Africa himself. I thought of the importance of him knowing, truly knowing, that he is backed by people who support him and believe in the same God that he does. As I was getting ready for my morning, I got a strange desire to clean up my refrigerator. What? I removed expired yogurt and outdated bottles of iced tea. I rinsed them out and took them outside to the recycle bin, thinking I promptly dropped them in the trash can. What a bummer! As I sorted through the smelly refuse to pick out the recycling that I had so carefully prepared, I saw a visual of Martin, my upcoming client. I saw that my time with him today was to sort out those parts of his psyche that were worth claiming and keeping, even though we had to dig in the trash or the low-level energy to find them. The beautiful pieces of Martin's soul that gravitated to the light needed to be picked out of the low-level vibrations that, frankly, I find repugnant. And that was my job that day, to help Martin recognize and hold on to those pieces of his life experiences that he wanted to retain. We worked to remove the programming placed on him by religion, as well as those of dark entities, so that Martin could stand in his own truth, with no pull from either side. Martin was able to find his way, create the life that he and only he saw fit, and build a future around that. So I would like to welcome my friend and fellow light worker, Linda Dierks, to the show. I'm pleased that Linda can join us tonight. Good evening, Linda. Are you there?
Hi, Ruth. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
How are you?
I'm fine, and thanks for sharing this with us also. I think it's really fascinating, especially pointing out the what you say as above, so below, that the same categories apply here on the physical plane. It makes it easier for us to understand people's frequencies and what might be driving their behaviors. So there are some points that we were talking about I thought were really, really interesting. I want me to launch into a couple of those.
Yes, I'd love for you to.
One of the things that we've talked about is finding your tribe of like-minded, talking with about your gentleman, and finding people who believed in the same God. And in the same vein, when we find people who share our same beliefs, our same frequencies, and so forth, it helps support the work that we do, and the exchange of information. It just raises the consciousness of all of us. I have some examples of people who do, gravitate at that same energetic frequency. And the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is meeting Ruth. Is a classic example. We were at a conference of about 500 people, and your energy stood out, and we connected. The frequency of people's individual energy reaches out to you through the universal field. Also, it's not just a face-to-face contact. We may encounter people and immediately feel drawn to them or not. But often, but this energy will also reach out through the universal field, and that's how I happened to connect with a woman who is my mentor, Meredith, and reacquainted with an old friend. Both are also authors, and through this energetic frequency, through the commonalities of the way you think and the way you endeavor to live your life, your desire to serve, and so forth, will always bring you in with other people. Do you gravitate to other people that way also?
Do, and I was just thinking about, I have a group of friends that I see once a week, but not one of them can speak my language as far as energy work. And so I have to find, and Linda, obviously you're one of them, I have to find the people that speak my language. If I didn't have the Lindas and the Claudias and the Shishis and, all of our beautiful hosts on International Angels Network, I'd be very lonely on that plane of having someone to connect with energetically. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a need for your family and your friends and all that, but when it comes to somebody who really speaks your language, as you say, your tribe, those are golden individuals to me.
Golden is a great way to put it. I'm glad. I'm going to take note of that. And also in our everyday lives, we encounter people, just shopkeepers or the post office, or just the vibration of somebody who might be in the checkout line, and you naturally have a tendency to be drawn to them, and you seem to find an eye contact, or just exchange simple conversation. Just that people, everyone has a natural tendency to be drawn to some people and to be repelled by others. and there may not be any obvious, clear explanation, but we're all resonating at a very distinct and unique frequency, which I believe is dependent on our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual awareness. And we have this unique frequency about us, and so do other people. You know, our body is like I look at our bodies as being somewhat like a tuning fork that absorbs the energy of its environment. In quantum science, it's called the law of sympathetic resonance, and it's an energy that you put out, and you will attract others of the same energy. It behaves like a magnet. When someone resonates with your own tuning fork, you can feel it, and you can it'll resonate brightly. You know, it's that cliche. Some people will literally light you up when you're around. Some people they just you just generally have an instant flow, an instant rapport, and there's kind of a joy about it. So someone who's a good fit may not resonate exactly at the same frequency, but they must be in harmony with your frequency. You can think of yourselves as the classic tonic chord or something with the harmonies in life. They may not be an exact match with your harmony, but they have to be with your frequency, but they have to be in harmony. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Hey, Linda, we've got a question coming in on Facebook Live. So Taylor wants to know, she says, I have love, I forgive all, and I have compassion, and I wish to help people without being paid if they cannot afford it, but I am also depressed. I'm sad for people who are hurt like that. That's why I get depressed. So I think Taylor is wondering about what level, because I did mention depression as one of the lower level energies. But the things that you're talking about there, Taylor, about love and forgiveness and compassion and helping people, you know, without being monetarily compensated, those are all, that's all like level 2, level 3 energy right there. So if you're struggling with depression, I think, you know, whatever you can do to try to keep your energy, your vibrational energies higher, even if you are struggling with a biochemical, I don't know if yours is or not, depression, but whatever you can do to just try to keep your energy levels up, which, you know, includes connecting with spirit, listening to music, getting involved in art. I mean, there's so many different things, and we can talk about those in a little bit. And, yeah, so Claudia says that she's thinking that Taylor is an empath, and an empath is someone who sort of takes on other people's energies and isn't so effective at keeping other people's energies out of their own energetic field. So, yeah, I could see that. So don't worry about what level you're at, Taylor. Just keep loving and forgiving and being your beautiful, special self. And to continue to give is a great way to create that flow. I have to, I agree with Claudia that to be really effective when you're doing this kind of work, you have to stand in your own frequency and not absorb the energy from others. If you absorb discordant energy, it stops, you know, the flow of that energy through you and will create depression. One of the best things for depression is to open your crown. You know, depression is quite often the closed crown chakra. And if you can open that crown chakra through love, through joy, through inspiration, then energy will, you know, your energy is more likely to flow, and your depression will get better. Nice.
I used to have a lot of intermittent depression in my life. So Taylor, you know, I really am encouraged by your words and how you give to others, and just take care of yourself and you'll be fine.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you for saying that, Linda. So it's so fascinating having this conversation, because tomorrow I'm going to be reading the energy at a horse ranch. And the problem is that they're losing horses. And it's been the last year, they've lost like 8 horses in the last year. And as I was reading the energy this morning in preparation, not only did I see a big vortex that was just sucking the energy, the life force out of these horses, but I was also seeing that the land that this ranch is on, for one reason or another, has very low vibrational frequencies, and these poor horses are trying to maintain their high vibrational levels of frequency, and they can't, because they're just surrounded by sort of this ick of low level, and they're dropping. They can't sustain good health when they're in this mixture of negativity and low level energy. And as you were saying the other day, Linda, when their own vibrational energies drop low enough, then they're susceptible to disease and illness. And that's what we're seeing with these horses. So the timing of this conversation is very interesting.
And we're always passing along great resources. A great cure for that would be a good dowser who can come in and work with the land. And if the organization would like to contact me, I'll give them the name of a dowser who I've worked with, who travels around the world working with crops and herds of animals and so forth. And so give them my name. I'd be glad to help them out.
Oh, great. Thank you. I will do that. It's very timely.
It's pretty interesting. Yes, it is pretty interesting work.
Right. So, Linda, have you ever had to deal with somebody who is coming from a much lower level of vibrational frequency than you? Like you had to deal with them on a work basis or something like that? And if you did, how did you deal with that?
Well, I think that we've all had to deal with that in some way or another. I think first you need to just anchor in what I call your bandwidth. Also, Penny Pierce calls it your home frequency, what you call alignment of self. This home frequency is always a core of God's love. It's a place in you that's almost bulletproof. It can't be touched. And when you come here, you'll always be in a place of safety and clarity. I also thought of coming from acceptance and just knowing that we're all different keys on the piano and we're all on a journey to learn specific lessons in this lifetime to raise our consciousness. Even the hardest person to deal with, or the one in the most desperate circumstances, we need to remember that they chose to be where they are in this lifetime for the learning value. This was a soul contract they made. And we need to respect this as a part of the development of their consciousness. I once asked my guide how to help a sibling and was simply answered, he is on his own journey. Sometimes, we're anxious to fix people and say, oh, if they would only understand, when oftentimes our role might just be to help and support them along their way. And I think leading by example is one of the best things we can do. And again, to always stay anchored in our own good. Change is something that we need to embrace. As your story about Victoria and Linny, as our frequencies increase, we'll find that previous relationships just don't fit anymore. Old friends will drop away, and new relationships with people with similar frequencies will just magically emerge. And we're looking again at that law of sympathetic resonance. And too many of us are trying to maintain relationships that we've outgrown, that just don't fit as well anymore. And it'll always, if you try to do that, it'll always feel like you're wearing, clothes that just don't fit. And you won't be fully functioning in your home frequency. We talked about this earlier. You'll become energetically dense and dull. You'll kind of lose that flow. You'll become unhappy, and eventually, you'll become. It'll manifest. It's either physically or mentally in your life, either as disease or depression or anxiety.
So Linda, I think
Go ahead.
Linda, I think you're psychic because Taylor just wrote in. She said, I think that's what happens to me. That's why I think my partner and I are separating, even though I love him so much. But he has a lot of pain he isn't willing to work through. And that's exactly what you were just talking about.
If I bring to mind one of the first spiritual leaders that I studied with. Her name was Ellen Tadd, and she defined love as that which nurtures the growth of another. I'm going to repeat that. Love is defined as that which nurtures the growth of another. So if you're in a relationship that just doesn't fit anymore, this is your litmus test. Is this relationship nurturing your growth? And you can still love this person, but if it's not a nurturing, growth stimulating relationship for you, then it's going to shut down your energy, and it's going to once it clogs that flow, then it's going to manifest as depression. It's making change is extremely difficult, but it's important to stand your ground. These situations can create some of the hardest choices in your life, but if you choose yourself first, you won't be sacrificing the health and the happiness that is God's intention for you. God intends for us to be happy and healthy. Change means moving into a new vibration.
Right.
You're raising your consciousness, and there are always growing pains that are associated with it. I think that we're guilty. We look at our lives as though they're a photograph, as though it's a fixed picture. But there is no growth without change. And the rewards are worth it. There's a joke in this industry that says everybody wants transformation, but nobody wants to change. It's so true. Mm-hmm. We're so resistant to change, but there is no growth without change.
Right.
It's
hey, Linda,
so
do you
hard.
have just? I know.
Go ahead.
And, from two women who have both gone through divorces, so Taylor, we feel your pain truly. Linda, do you have just a couple of ideas off the top of your head of how someone can remain in higher level vibrational frequencies? I had mentioned like music and art, spending time with spirit. Any other ideas that come to mind?
Number one, in panacea, right across the board, the highest frequency is love. Living your life from a heart-centered focus in the way you deal with your relationships, decisions that you make, everything that comes from right intention, everything that comes from love. If you're making a difficult decision, go through the dialogue in your brain first and then drop right down into your heart center. Physically put both hands on your heart and then see what the dialogue looks like. It'll be much softer and with much more clarity. Love is the greatest panacea. And then, of course, meditation, positive thinking, nurturing, affirmation, anything that inspires you, that brings you to joy. Joy and love are very, closely aligned in high frequencies. And I think that we need always to be, constantly aware of ourselves as spiritual beings and our connection with a higher presence. It takes a gentle and a steady attention, but it always brings really huge awards in higher consciousness. What I've learned is that when you step up to the plate and invest your time and interest, this higher presence will also step up to the plate to meet you and invest time and interest in you. And it just becomes a constant escalation of consciousness.
Beautifully said. And you are so psychic tonight. I can't believe you keep saying things that people are writing into me on Facebook. It's cracking me up. You're very in tune tonight. So, Linda, we've got just a couple minutes. Can you please take a minute and let us know what the next 5-week mini-series is about? Step into your power with Linda Dierks.
I'm really excited. And just to fill our listeners in a little bit, I went through a a half of a decade of what I call the dark ages of my life, of cancer, depression, PTSD. And I had exhausted all of the known remedies and treatments, and eventually I knew that I had to take charge of my own wellness, or I was going to spend the rest of my life on welfare and disability. So I literally just raised the white flag. I let go, and this higher presence came into my life, initially just reassuring me and then later directing me into different avenues. So I've taken all of the concepts that made me successful, and I've boiled them down into an easy-to-understand, simple steps of how to shift your thinking and your awareness just to create wellness and joy in your life. And, my passion is to empower others to take ownership of their own health and save them from needless suffering. So it's all about empowerment. We have basically 5 different steps. One is to know yourself. The second is to embrace your gifts. The third will be to love yourself. The fourth is walking with a higher presence, and then to engage, expand, and express, and tie everything all together. And I hope, people will tune in and just pick up these simple tools. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really enlightening, and it's a privilege to share this work, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, it's a privilege to be on the receiving end of the conversation as you are speaking your work out loud. So it's a delight all the way around. So, Linda, that's
you are so sweet, and I
love
you, Ruth.
Oh, you're the best, Linda.
Okay, good night.
We got a bromance going here. So that's pretty much all that we've got time for tonight. A special thanks to Linda Dierks for being with us. If you would like to check out her work, please go to her website at spinstrawtogoldnow.com. Linda's got a lovely blog that she keeps up on her website, and you can sign in on her website and receive her blog as she's writing them. I want to thank you for listening in. It's always a pleasure to have you all with us. If you're interested and if you want to check out my work, please check out www.theministryonline or on Facebook at The Ministry Online. It is truly an honor for me to be among the hosts of International Angels Network. Please join us on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock Eastern Time for Diane Morgan with Angel Navigation. Wednesday's show is called Angel Talk with Sue with host Sue Broom. Saturdays we have 2 shows, one with Susie Parrott out of London, and our second show is with Shishi O'Donnell. Bernadette Garvin will be coming to us from Ireland. Her show will be starting in June, and she's on Saturday as well. And lastly, I am very excited to tell you that Beth Wright, who was a guest on my show, will be hosting her own show on Thursday nights right before mine, starting July 5th. So please check out these other shows. So that's all I've got tonight. I look forward to walking with Spirit and you next Thursday, June 7, 2018. God bless.
Hey, did you hear that when the Denver Nuggets win, you can get a free 16-ounce fountain drink from Conoco the day after?
When?
When the Denver Nuggets win.
When the Denver Nuggets win, what happens?
You win a free 16-ounce fountain drink from Conoco.
When a free 16-ounce fountain drink from Conoco does what?
No, we all win free drinks from Conoco the day after every Nuggets win.
Oh, go Nuggets!
Conoco. Choose Go. No purchase necessary. See Conoco.com for participating sites. Limit 100 promotional fountain drinks between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. after a Nuggets game win while supplies last. Promotion ends April 11th, 2019.